Hello, Namaste. I am Dr. R. Mohan, working as Professor and Head, Department of Agronomy in Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru College of Agriculture and Research Institute, Karaikal, Union Territory of Puducherry. I am here to present the best practices on soil management in natural farming that are followed in different zones of India as a case study. I start with our father of nation Mahatma Gandhiji's words. Nature and man are interdependent. Protection of the environment will be in the interest of man himself. That means in order to protect the human being, the man has to take care the environment. What is agriculture? What is farming? And who is called farmer? A farming is a practice by which we, the Pancha Mahabhuta, we call it as 5 elements of nature, to control for the crop production. And a farmer, he has the ability to control all these 5 elements are Pancha Mahabhuta for crop production and prosperity from his own land. The Pancha Mahabhutas, earth, that is soil, water, fire, air and space. All these are to be controlled, managed, and it should be used properly for producing more from our farmlands. So farming is a skill and a farmer should acquire that skill to manage all these 5 Pancha Mahabhutas. Let us turn back onto the roads of our understanding on agriculture. We have started doing cultivation some 10,000 years before. We started with the shifting cultivation. We have understood certain things during shifting cultivation and we failed to understand certain things during shifting cultivation. We have understood the importance of organic matter required for in the soil for our crop production activity during shifting cultivation. Later on, we followed traditional farming when we become civilized. In traditional farming, we have developed many understandings on the farming technologies and we followed a settled farming. That means whatever we could not have understood during shifting cultivation were understood and written as a manuscripts in Vedic literatures. We understood the importance of organic matter in the soil. We understood the importance of irrigation water. We understood the importance of controlling weeds, pests and diseases. We understood how much to plow the land. So, with that basic understanding only, the Vedic traditional farming had sustained for a very long period of time. Later, but we failed in our traditional farming is we could not able to produce enough food for the growing population. So, we had switched over to intensive farming system or we can call it as now chemical farming system that during 1960s in India. We used fertilizers. We used intensively cultivating crops all through the year. We used hybrids. We used machineries and whatnot. We used pesticides. We also achieved and we also failed in this intensive chemical farming. The achievements is rosy and our failures are also thorny in intensive farming. So now we are in a dilemma whether we have to continue the intensive farming or to switch over to a new methodology that can able to sustain our production system. Now let us see the nature's gift on India. Let it be soil. Let it be rainfall. Let it be climate. Our India is endowed with resources. We have been provided with 6 types of soil. Each and every one are having its own characteristic feature. It supports certain crops, it supports many crops, etc. India has varied climates, varied rainfall pattern, and whatnot. India is endowed with varied Panchabhuta activities. Coming to our major soil types of India, even though there are small soil types are there, the major soil types are 6, starting from alluvial, black soil, red and yellow soils, laterite, arid, forest and mountain soils. Among these, alluvial soil occupy more percentage of area in India, which are found in almost all the river plains. The alluvial soils are formed by the deposits of floodwaters. It carries small soil particles from the mountains and deposited in the plains. It supports many crops. It is rich in fertility. And coming to black soils, it also occupies nearly 25% of the area, particularly in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka. And it has a very characteristic feature of swelling and shrinking. It holds more quantity of water to supply to the crops. During monsoon, it can catch more water, and during non-monsoon, it can supply to the crops. It's a very characteristic feature. And there are red and yellow soils. It is also widely available in India, in most of the Deccan plateaus of almost all states of southern states, and nearly again 20 to 25% of the area is occupied by these red and yellow soils. But it has its own advantages and disadvantages. The red and yellow soils will hold only less quantity of moisture or water, unlike black soil. But it can allow to grow any crop on it. It can allow even tree crops, any crops on it. It's wide acceptability of growing crops, but poor in nutrients. And again, laterite soil, which is a very small quantity on the Western Ghats, and arid soils in Rajasthan, where agricultural activity can be taken up. Forest and mountain soils in our Himalayan regions. It is the soil which is very high in organic matter. Now, let us also see our Indian agricultural scenario that supports the national gross domestic product. You can see agriculture remains the major share of gross domestic product of India until 1960s. That means agriculture remained as the major source of income to the government until 1960s. Thereafter, due to science and technology, industrial development, service sector, communications, the share of agriculture towards national GDP has constantly come down, declined to nearly 15% recently. It's a very great declination. But on the other hand, the agriculture has not left the country without food. The food production of the country has been constantly increased from 1960. Even though its GDP share has declined, the food production has been constantly increasing from 50 million tonnes in 1950 to now presently 250 to 280 million tonnes. That means nearly 5 times increase in the food production. It has not left the people of India on hungry. Our agriculture system has been supporting our nation, not in the case of GDP, but in the case of food production. It is a rosy picture. Yes, I do agree, but at what cost? We have to see the inner details. The cost is on the fertilizers that we have used, particularly nitrogen. We have enormously dumped nitrogenous fertilizers and we have achieved this rosy picture. The cost of fertilizers have been very, very high. Is it that alone? Is there any other tawny pictures? Yes. See, the crop yield response had also declined. It was very high when it was newly introduced during 1960s. When fertilizer was introduced into the agricultural ecosystem, the agricultural production or response was 13.4 kg for every 1 kg of fertilizer added. But now it has reduced to 3.7 kg for every 1 kg of fertilizer added. That means we have reached a plateau. We could not furthermore expect the same increase in yield hereafter. So, once again a thorny picture in front of us. And see our nutrient status of our soils. Our soils are 6 types. Holistically, our Indian soils are very low in status with respect to nitrogen and phosphorus. Nearly 89 to 90% of our Indian soils are very low in status of nitrogen and phosphorus. Thank God. Our potassium status was low only in 50% of the soils. Is it still hold good now? It is a big question mark. We are also losing the potassium status to low nowadays in many of our Indian soils. Not only our major nutrients like N, P and K, we are also losing or we are causing deficiency in micro and secondary nutrients. For example, sulfur in 41% of the soil we found deficient. Zinc, 49% of our Indian soils are deficient. Boron, 33% of the soils are deficient, and so on and so forth. Molybdenum, iron, manganese and copper. It is going on. Are we going to say that these are all inherent deficiency of our Indian soils? No, not at all. Because nitrogen is the only nutrient that was deficient in our Indian soils during 1950. Later on, for every 10 years, due to the continuous use of fertilizers, pesticides and chemical farming, we have lost one by one and created deficiency of various nutrients. In the first decade, we have created iron deficiency. The next decade, we have created phosphorus, zinc and potassium deficiency. Next, sulfur and manganese. Then boron. Then what it? So all the essential nutrients will become deficient in one day in our Indian soils. So, we have to understand from this that we are missing something in our production system that we have introduced during 1960s. We have missed something. It is soil health. We concentrated on soil quality, but we missed the soil health. What makes the difference between soil health and soil quality? Soil quality is just a measure of the quantity and it is a quantifiable factor. But soil health is a condition. It is a qualitative condition of the soil. Its condition to support the living ecosystem. It is the condition of the soil for nutrient cycling. It is the condition of the soil, how it infiltrates or allows water and make it available to crop plants. It is the condition of the soil, how it filters and acts as a buffer against various abnormalities. It is the condition providing support and stability to the organisms. It is the condition provided for biodiversity. So, the missing thing of our soil is our soil health. We have to manage our soil in terms of our soil health hereafter. How can? We can. See, this is again yet another decline in the growth of our productivity. That means during 1981 to 89 period, in various parts of the Indo-Gangetic Plain area, like West Bengal, Haryana, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, the factor productivity remained at 1.24 to 5.13. That means it was growing at 1.24 to 5.13. But whereas during 1990 to 95 or 96, the factor productivity had declined to 0.1 to 1.25. That means the health of the soil was not maintained. Coming to the same productivity growth rate in major crops, how the productivity increased over years. When we see for rice, during 1980-81 to 89 period, the productivity growth rate remained at 3.19. But during 2000 to 2002, the productivity of rice had declined. That is negative growth rate, minus 0.72. Similarly, wheat, the productivity which remained at 3.1 during 80s, in 2000 it was mere 0.73. It can also be seen in pulses, oilseeds, non-food grains and food grains everywhere. The trend of productivity increase had declining now in negative trend. So it's a cause of concern, a very big cause of concern. It is now we have to change our soil health, consider our soil health, at least to produce or sustain our production in future. So soil health, how can we consider? What are all the indicators? To consider and improve the soil health, there are certain indicators. The indicators are, the first one, organic matter. How can and how best, how fast we are improving organic matter will increase the soil health. The next one, physical environment. In what quantity it holds water, nutrients, etc. And biological environment. How much of organism it holds. How much of plants it holds. What is its biodiversity. And finally, the chemical environment. How nutrients are recycled. All the nutrients are recycled. Whether all the nutrients are insufficient and without any deficiency symptoms. All these are the measure of soil health. So, in order to maintain this soil health, we have to find a solution for our present problem, that is causing greater concern on deficiency of various nutrients in our soil. Where from I can search this solution? Nowhere you can go. Your solution is in your nature. See at these two locations which was projected. One is prairies, grasslands. Another one is forest. Both these prairies and forest lands are supported by nature without any human inputs. How come they flourish? Who is providing nutrients? Who is controlling pests and diseases? Who takes care? The nature himself takes care of these prairies and forest. Are they not productive? It remained productive and still will remain productive in future. All the forest and prairies. Let us learn lessons from them. The forest areas and prairies. What lesson? What lesson we can learn from this nature? See again another one. A stable ecosystem on the top and the current naked soil situation of our present agricultural fields. You can see this naked soil situation anywhere you go across the world, wherever agricultural production we are producing. The stable ecosystem is an undisturbed ecosystem. It reaches its climax. It is highly productive, still remain productive, and it will also in future it will be productive. Whereas the naked soil in the down, it has been often disturbed by our human beings, by ploughing, by applying fertilizers. That's why Ray called these naked soils that our agricultural soils are running on hungry on thirsty, and on fever. So, our naked soil should not run on thirsty, should not run on hungry, should not run on fever. What we have to do? We should not make it naked. We should cover with something. With what? What we have to cover the soil? That is natural farming. We cover the soil either with mulches or manures, or we disturb the soil by means of tillage, very minimum level. These activities will keep the soil under its natural ecosystem effectively and supports. We should always cover the soil with live mulches, means always through on 365 days with plant covers. Any of the plant. We should always cover the soil with recycled mulches. We should always supply with manures. And we should disturb the soil very less. Only then the soil can give them a good biological organisms, nitrogen fixation and phosphorus availability, potassium availability, etc. Now, one of the case study I can take from India example is our understanding of Subhash Palekar on the natural farming. He had experienced over his 6 years in his natural ecosystem, and he developed a concept of zero budget natural farming. Based on his experience, he gives 4 important principles for natural farming. One is provide natural inputs that are freely available in the farm. Don't use costlier chemicals and fertilizers. Use always low inputs or no inputs. Always provide the farm with mulches that will protect the soil and keep the soil biologically active. And always do multiple cropping rather than a specialized single cropping, which will minimize the risk of failures and improves the soil. So these 4 principles are the understanding of natural farming by Subhash Palekar from Maharashtra. He also advocates to use under certain conditions for corrective measures use of Bijamrita and Jivamrita in his natural farming. To control insect and pest management, he advocates to use 3 astras, that is Agni Astra, then Neem Astra and Brahmastra. All are prepared from the local resources that are available within the farm. This is his basic understanding on natural farming. This is the production of Jivamrit. According to Subhash Palekar, for every 10 acres of land, we can prepare Jivamrita with 10 kg of cow dung, 10 kg of cow urine, 2 kg of pulse flour, 2 kg of jaggery and a handful of soil. With this, it can be mixed with 200 liters of water, and for 5 to 6 days it has to be stirred and can be used on the soil so that it will improve the efficiency of nutrient supply to the crop plants. The next understanding by the farmers of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal are the multi-tier cropping. This is covering the soil at all times. That is, if we are having a pandal crops, like it may be bitter gourd, snake gourd or anything, under that an elephant yam can be cultivated, so it will cover the entire soil. And another one, between 2 perennial tree crops, an annual sugarcane, then a 3 months old any pulse crops can be grown in between. A perennial, annual and seasonal crops can be multi-tiered so that the soil will be covered all along 365 days. This is one of the natural farming technology. This is yet another. The same Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and West Bengal farmers that adopted this type of covering the soil continuously all through 365 days with the elephant foot yam and bitter gourd, elephant foot yam and ridge gourd, elephant foot yam and bottle gourd. This is yet another example to cover the soil all through the year. It is a guava plantation in between which elephant yam or turmeric can be cultivated so that the soil will be covered all through 365 days. There is one farmer in Tamil Nadu. He always uses to tell that under natural farming, when we look from the soil above, the sky should not be visible. And when you are standing on the soil and look below, you should not see the soil particles. What it means actually? Actually, when we stand on the soil and look up, you should not see the sky means it should be covered with different height of crops. And similarly, you should not see below the soil particle means the soil should be covered with mulches. So this can be taken as a principle of natural farming. Based on that principle, we can go for many intercrops if we are following a seasonal and monsoon seasonal crop cultivation in our farm. These are all cited examples taken from Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, etc. The cotton crop intercropped with maize, cotton intercropped with soybean and red gram, cotton intercropped with green gram and maize, etc. So, we should not depend on a single crop and then leave the soil naked later. This is another example taken from the same Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, etc. Soybean crop with jowar cultivation, Bengal gram with safflower and coriander, along with integrated pest management strategy of providing birds pouches. The birds can sit there and can eat on the larvae so that pest control also is taken up. Similarly, Bengal gram with safflower and coriander and so on and so forth with the integrated pest management of pheromone traps inside. This is yet another example. A bendi along with the cowpea intercropping situation, the jowar cultivation along with the soybean mixed cropping. So, the concept of leaving the field naked is not seen in this type of farming. We have to depend on multiple cropping in natural farming. The live examples I have taken two. One is the Sudhakar Kubde, who is a follower of Subhash Palekar. He decided to do an experiment in 2007 in 7 bighas of land, that is 1.12 hectares of farmland where he owns. He used multiple cropping and according to him, he is doing banana, orange, cotton, pulses, beans, spinach, radish, chili, garlic, onion in all through the years in different season wherever it is feasible. And he says he is earning money on daily basis all through the year and I am not spending anything on this natural farming. And another success story in Punjab by Charanjit Singh Puni from Chaina village in Faridkot. He converted his 1 hectare of land to natural farming where he cultivates many number of crops, and according to him the input required for the natural farming was quite lower, very lower, but the output was also medium but not that much even to chemical farming, But when I see the net benefit that I obtained was very, very enormous when compared to organic and chemical farming. Not only on these commercial grounds, he also says the soil was improved in its health status. So, with this understanding of natural farming, we maintain the soil with good health hereafter. The health can be maintained by completely covering the soil all through the year by multi-tier cropping, mulching, providing organic inputs, and reducing or no application of fertilizers and destroying the soil microflora and fauna. Let us do natural farming hereafter to improve the soil health. Thank you very much.